mother blessing. Every power blessing thy child. Super blessings.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Living Shakti Series Summit. And it is my pleasure to be here and to be part of the celebration of Navratri with devotees of Ma Adi Shakti. And today I am happy to be interviewing Kalavati Devi. Thank you so much for joining us, Kalavati Devi. And can you just briefly introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you for hosting this for us. And it's an honor to be here with everybody. So I go by the spiritual name Kalavati Devi. That was the name given to me by Adi Shakti Mom. And a brief introduction. So most people know me as Dr. Christie Smirl. I've been practicing medicine in various formats for about 30 years. And I'm also a nurse practitioner, master of science. I'm a yoga teacher trainer, a musician, an author, artist. I do a lot of different things. But the last 2 years, I've really taken a break from all of the worldly work type things, took a sabbatical from the hospital, and I've just been diving as far into self-actualization as I can.
Wow, that's so amazing. That's so amazing that you could take that time to really dive into your spiritual work. And I'm so excited that you're here to share more about us. And I'm wondering if you can tell us more about your journey and experiences as a disciple of Ma Adishakti.
Absolutely. You know, I used to giggle because if you had asked me 5 years ago, 10 years ago about a guru, I would have told you I'm not the guru type. And, you know, I went to India, I believe it was first time October, about this time of year, 2017. And I went there with one of the bands I was collaborating with, and we're going to do, you know, a kirtan offering. And I wasn't really sure who she was. I hadn't heard of Adi Shakti Mom. And when I arrived, I could just feel this deep sense of energy, for lack of better words. To try to put my own description onto it is to lessen it. And one of the first things that I noticed is when we were singing for her, it was as if we began to speak a common language. And I had the opportunity to sit with her afterwards in privacy. And the first thing that struck me is she didn't know me or my story. And she was already able to tell me where I had come from. I mean, very specific details that you just don't throw out there and hope stick, you know? And, you know, she told me a lot of things about what would be coming in my life. And thus far, they have all occurred. And, you know, I have met highly psychic people before, but this was a connection that was unlike any other connection. And, you know, after I went home, I found myself longing to be there with her again and having thoughts about her all the time. And eventually time went on, I went back to India. And when I returned back home, I also took Diksha and initiation, received a spiritual name. And you know, it's very hard to explain the journey that I've had with Ma. There's been some really unusual phenomenon that have occurred that, you know, to say it out loud would almost be absurd, but it's been one of those journeys that the student was ready and the guru arrived.
Beautiful. That's so special that you've had that time with Ma and that you could travel to India. It's something that I hope to do eventually. And yeah, I can feel just the power in your words of that experience.
Thank you.
Can you tell us more about Shakti? How does Shakti manifest for you? How do you describe it, and how do you feel it? And also, how does that connect with your devotion?
Yeah, for me, Shakti, I really like how Ma has described Shakti. Of course, I have my copy of Living Shakti, and it's right in the very beginning of the book. And it says, Ma is the source of light. Her abode is light. Shakti is the divine light emanating. Ma is the controller of all the divine lights. So, when I think of Shakti, I think of the Ma, the mother. And for me, of course, my Ishta Devata is Kali. So Kali Ma is that which destroys, eradicates everything that is a barrier to us emanating our highest form, our highest light, or our highest Shakti. And when I think of Shakti, I think it's not necessarily something that is out there and I have to go discover it. But I understand it from the standpoint of it is already within each and every one of us. We are all perfectly divine. We just have to awaken it within us. We have to awaken Shakti. Now, when we say Shakti, and Ma often refers to light, I think of Ayurveda, because I'm trained in Ayurveda, of the term Agni. And Agni is, referred to all the way back in the Rig Veda. And when we think about Agni, or fire, or Shakti Ma, we understand that there's a lot of different forms of Agni. We have Jatar Agni, which is digestive Agni. We have the Panchamahabhuta Agnis, the 5 elemental Agnis. We have the Saptadhatu Agnis, the 7 tissue Agnis. But we also have subtle Agni in the mind channels and spiritual channels. And it is our job, or not our job, it is the seeker's goal, or my goal, to remove as many obstacles as possible to have the highest emanation of Shakti or Agni as possible. So for instance, when I think of Shakti or Agni, I look at the Panchakoshas. We've got the 5 sheaths. We've got the Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and Anandamaya Kosha. So those layers, when we look at the Anandamaya Kosha, we have our physical body, and we know we have to get enough exercise, right? Or otherwise we become kind of like damp, swampy creatures. But that dampness, or that stagnancy of chi, or stagnancy of Agni in the physical body, becomes like a choke point, and it begins to dim our divinity. And then we also have Agni, which manifests through the way we breathe and the way we think. So I was just reading, since it's Navratri, I was reading the Chandipat. And it's talking about this great battlefield, where Chandika and Kali, they're killing all these demons, asuras, but really they're thoughts. Like the word Chamunda comes from the 2 different demons of passion and anger that she defeated. And they're actually referred to in translation as thoughts. So Shakti manifests in my life to try to awaken me to the thoughts, the stinking thinking, the itty bitty committee that dims Shakti. Because what we think is really just based off of temporary world conditioning from our families, our cultures, things like that. And some of them are valuable and helpful, but many of the things that we've been conditioned to think are actually what they would consider asuras, or demons of the mind that dim the Shakti from radiating forth. So, that's how I think of Shakti. And it's really a multi-pronged process, a multi-dimensional process of thinking about Shakti as coming to you, moving within you, emanating from you, and all around.
Wow. I just so admire all the knowledge that you bring to your practice and that you share with us. Thank you for that in-depth experience and definition of Shakti. I'm also just really admiring your altar that's behind you. It's just like so vibrant and beaming and shining. And I was wondering if you could just share with us about your altar a little bit.
Oh, I'd love to. It's last night was the new moon, so I had a lot of activity at the altar spaces. There's a lot in the houses, but this is my main altar. I don't know if you can see that. So we've got, big mandala. It's like a flower, like the flower of life. And then here, of course, we've got Shiva Shakti. And if you know Ma, we know about Shiva Shakti, that's for sure. And one of my dear friends gifted, let me bring that down, this huge stone Shiva lingam that came from a temple. So a lot of times my daughter used to come in here and she's like, what are you doing? You're pouring milk all over the altar. But that's okay. And of course we have Shiva and accoutrements that go with Shiva. And then right now, since it's Navratri, I have most of the primary goddesses out. Naturally, we have Lakshmi, and we also have Saraswati. We have Durga, Kali, Mahakali, and then we can't forget Ganesha here. And Ganesha, of course, has all of his accoutrements as well. He's got an elephant bell and all sorts of different things that I use in Bhakti. And it's getting a little dark, but over here you can see Krishna and Radha and Guru Ma, as well as Dhanvantari, who is, related mostly to an incarnation of Vishnu, as well as Ayurveda. And then all the goodies that go with it, the gongs, the bells, the conch, and the yantras. And I spend most of my time right here.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
So blessed to be able to experience that. And I know that we have some devotional music that we're going to share from you. Before we do that, is there anything that you'd like to tell our listeners about Navratri or living Shakti or Ma?
I think that the main thing, since we're in this season of rising Shakti, the season of rising mother energy and goddess energy, Ma really encourages us. It's written more so in the book, Petals of Wisdom, about bhakti. And bhakti is such an important process in connecting with the divine. And, she tells us many times that bhakti can be a lot of different activities. It can be through dance. It can be through art. It can be through song, kirtan. It can be through chanting. And it can also be done through other activities like seva even. For me, I'm really a big chanter. Sometimes I think I have japa thumb tendonitis from chanting so much. But with this time of the year, Ma really just encourages us to really go inward and find that spark of divinity inside. And I also believe that bhakti is a multi-sensory process, not a sensory deprivation process. And that's one of the reasons why, for me at least, I have so much on the altar. There's, prasad to eat, there's incense to smell, there's light to look at, there's things to feel and experience. And Ma really emphasizes that it's about love. And how do we nurture? How do we romance? How do we discover this love of the divine? Not only the concept of the divine out there, but the concept of nurturing and finding that divine love within ourselves. So, at this time of year, it's just a really beautiful time to rediscover what Shraddha, faith, what bhakti means to each of us, and to dive in really deep, because this is when we can really stir the ocean and bring out all of the gems and the pearls.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And yeah, may we seize the moment. May we seize the time.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, I want to encourage everyone, if you haven't yet, get your copy of Living Shakti. It's available on Amazon, really easy to purchase and really affordable. And again, thank you so much, Kalavati Devi, for interviewing with us. And it's been a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you.
Thank you for hosting and putting everything together. And Jai Ma.
Jai Ma.
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare